Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonya Farrall. This is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the fantastic, in fact, the amazing Vanessa Fuller, who is from Coaching by Vanessa. Hello, Vanessa.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for asking. Now, Vanessa, you've already climbed a mountain in your career and you've got a very successful business, which is Premier Tax Solutions. But now you've gone on to a new venture, which is about the coaching. So that's what I want to be speaking to you more about and going into 2025 today, is why have you transitioned and got into a coaching role as well?
I think because naturally in accountancy, you're giving a lot of advice to people and helping them to solve problems. And so it's kind of been bridging the gap with people so that you're not just focusing on the tax and the financial goals. You're also linking back into the personal life as well. So it's just that holistic approach for them.
And I suppose in doing the accountancy as well, like you say, you've seen how businesses grow or develop and the challenges. So would you say it's been quite a natural step for you?
Definitely, yeah. And I think as a business owner myself, I've been through so much in the last nearly 10 years. We've been going 10 years this year that it did definitely feel like a natural progression.
So why then is sort of business planning and looking into strategy as well, why is that just so vital for a business, whether they're looking to make any change, they're looking to grow or progress in any shape or form? Why is it so important?
So I always liken it to a sat nav. So let's say that you're going on holiday and you're going to Heathrow Airport, then you wouldn't just decide to drive there and not use your sat nav and, wing it or use the old AA paper maps that you might have had tucked down the back of the seat. So by using, Google Maps or your sat nav in your car, it's then allowing you to take the quickest route there. And then if there's a roadblock on the way, let's say there's been an accident, it's going to divert you around it to get you there in the quickest way possible. And I liken that to the coaching and the strategy that I do, that it's like a metaphorical sat nav for your business, that, what's the point in taking a long way to get to where you want to go when you can take the quickest and easiest way?
So is it then, for a business owner, understanding, I suppose, not only the aim and the end goal, like you sort of saying there, but understanding what a navigation process is to get you from A to B? Yeah,
because I think sometimes people do really struggle. Like they might be able to see where they want to go, and people even struggle with that, to be honest, but they might be able to see where they can, they want to get to, but then trying to get there, they just look at it and think it's really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, again, being a business owner, and yourself, you're a business owner, is sometimes it can be quite difficult to sort of keep the focus again on your end goals, to remind yourself of your why and why you're doing this and where you want to head. But also, does it come down to setting boundaries as well? And how, as a business owner, do you set boundaries to help you to progress?
I think sometimes you have to think about putting yourself first and you being the number one customer. And I think a lot of people set the goals for the business but then forget about the personal goals. And I always start with the personal goals, and then your business should feed into that. And I think once you've got your head around that concept, that definitely helps. And then from then on, it's about making your goals the priority, and we do have to set boundaries as part of that, and have specific time that we're going to focus on the business, or change the way that you operate the business in some ways, because quite often once I start coaching with somebody and you start digging into the business, boundaries are definitely an issue, and we all like to please the clients as much as we can, and sometimes we let them get away with murder, and then that's to our detriment.
Yeah, I suppose it could have quite a negative impact really on how a business performs at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so by not having the boundaries in place, then that's kind of like making you take the long way to your end goal.
So if a business owner out there is listening now and they're going through certain struggles and everything, and they are thinking, well, this hasn't been working, I don't know how to deal with that. I've had this client for like 5 or 6 years, but they do take advantage sometimes, or they're letting them to take advantage of it. What could you say, or could be the process of implementing a new boundary for somebody?
I think it depends in which way they're taking advantage of them. So quite often, one of the things that get taken advantage of is something called scope creep. So you'll price something, so you're offering a certain service, and then they're like, can you just do that? Can you just do that? And then before you know it, you've spent an extra day on their work and you're not charging them. So that's probably one of the biggest boundaries that I get set in place first, is having a look at the pricing and the scope creep, and that you are delivering just what you say you're supposed to be delivering, and having the confidence to push back and say, I can do that for you, but it's going to cost you X amount. And then before you know it, your business is getting a lot more profitable from just making that small change. But it's not that small of a change when you're having to sit there and do it and have the confidence to push back a little bit with the clients. But that makes a massive difference.
Yeah, I suppose if you do keep doing that, and you keep repeating that, and you repeat that with another client and another client and another client, I suppose you could get quite unhappy in your business, really, couldn't you?
Yeah, and it can be a real drain on people. And, I've seen people in my role as an accountant reaching crisis point because they can't take any more and they're getting burnt out.
So you mentioned confidence.
Yeah.
Now, confidence is always a big word. It can be taken in so many ways as well, whether it's personal, in your work life, career, etc., or in business. And then there's always that other saying, which is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Now, what does this mean to you, imposter syndrome?
I still get it now, like nearly 10 years later after starting the business. And sometimes it's when you think, well, who am I to say this or do that? But then when you look around at the other people that you're looking up to you think, oh, they're amazing, or it comes really natural. Quite often it doesn't if you take the time to speak to them. And I had a coach up until I was going on maternity with my son Oscar. When
was that? Sorry, Vanessa.
So that would have been, I finished with her in 2023.
Okay.
And she's just a regular human being, but she does absolutely amazing things. And so I'd look at her and think, there's no difference between you, me, you sat here, like we're all the same. And then I think once you get your head around that a bit, then it makes it a lot easier. But I still get imposter syndrome, and I still get really nervous. And sometimes I can talk to myself 5 times a day and be like, just go out there and do it. Like, feel the fear and do it anyway. Just do it scared.
Does it then, other businesses out there, or even, staff members, potentially could get imposter syndrome as well? Is it then, how would, say as a business owner then, and you've got a member of staff and they're more than capable of doing certain things, but maybe they're sort of head of department is having a bit of an imposter syndrome. What would you say? Is there ways there that you could help with that as well and identify what that issue is?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to the communication. And, we've had somebody that's worked in our business, and that person was absolutely wonderful, and they did have imposter syndrome or doubted themselves a lot, and they would question themselves over and over. And I think once you have the open conversations with them, it does make things a lot easier. And so that's how we try to operate as a business, that, we're very open in any topics that we talk about, just so that everybody feels very much included as well.
I suppose with that as well comes into the well-being, again, in the culture within an organisation.
Yeah.
And I think that is quite important again for growth. Would you agree, with that side?
Yeah, because I think the more that we've opened up with each other, so we speak openly about things like fertility issues, mental health issues, dependents or people that we're caring for outside of work. And, as we're quite open and honest about what's going on and what's affecting us, I think then it doesn't seem like you're sat up here and you're this like invincible boss. It's like, actually, you're a human being with feelings, and people can see what makes you tick. And by having that open conversation, I think that it makes you a lot more relatable, and you can help them a lot and they can help you. So I do think that fosters a very different culture in a business. And
you mentioned that you yourself, you've had a coach yourself, and you do tend to or hear that, and I've come across coaches many a time, they said, well, I've got a coach as well. But sometimes it's still, I think for some, business owners, perhaps, there is that, whether it's a stigma or it's that scary point where do they cross the line and actually reach out for help?
Yeah.
And do you still think that there is those barriers more and more now as we're going into 2025, or do you think it's just the same at the moment?
I do think it's the same. I think the most important thing when you're picking somebody to work with as a coach is that you gel with them as a person. I think quite often I've heard comments about somebody's had a business coach and it hasn't worked, but when you hear what they've kind of done together, or things that they've shared, it doesn't feel like they were the right match for each other in the first place. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is finding your person that you gel with. Like when I was looking for my coach, I wanted somebody that was a mum and was in my industry, so that she understood all like the technicalities as well of running an accountancy practice. And so it's finding your person.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and it has been relatable. Like you say, I think with anybody you work with, ideally, you would like to be on the same wavelength, the same understanding, and have even the same ethos at times.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know, Vanessa, as well, from what you've said, like you say, the things that you've done, you've got a very successful other business, you're doing the coaching now. And when we were chatting, we've chatted off air, there's something you feel quite strongly about as well, as women in business.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, first of all, why you're so supportive of other women in business? That might sound an obvious question, but why is it that you've got such a strong feeling about that?
I think because sometimes we do have a bit of a tough ride. I think for me, where my passion came from with it was, I started Premier Tax Solutions as a single mum. We didn't even have a roof over his head at first. And so, coming out of like a male dominated industry back then, like 10 years ago, that was quite hard. And then, I was the sole caregiver and responsible for keeping a roof over his head. And I think as well, something that really put me off was an experience that I had at a networking event where there was other males there and they literally turned their back on me and didn't want to speak to me because they didn't take me serious enough as a female business owner. And so that kind of made me go for it even more. And so like I'm a massive support for women in business, because quite often we are the default care as well where there's children. And I do think like that can be really tough as well. And I think that when we kind of share experiences and share as knowledge together, then that makes us a lot stronger. Yeah, I totally agree. Again, in sharing knowledge, expertise as well, to support and help each other. And you mentioned even if being a parent, and this can, juggling all sorts of different things, and this can come down to whether you're a mother or a father even, and, you could be running a business or very high up in as a director in some other business, etc., and have a demanding career. That juggling, again, it's not just juggling. I mean, myself, we don't have children. And I found having a business, it can be really tough. And we've got a dog. Yeah, Betty.
We've got a little Betty. And she can be quite demanding.
Yeah.
So I can't relate and saying, I know by having children how demanding it can be. But from you, again, how do yourself go through that process on day to day, running a business, dealing with clients, dealing with a family, dealing with home life? I mean, how do you put that on to like a balancing sheet, so to speak?
It is very difficult, and we take it week by week. And I'm very fortunate that my other half really does muck in with everything. Like we're equal in terms of like the house and care and things like that. So he does really try, but it is so hard. And I think one of the worst things I found this year is Oscar's cut 7 teeth within a 3-month period. So I've been so sleep deprived, and that's been the worst, that people are expecting you to turn up to work and perform or go to a networking meeting or even do like a video and things like that, and you're like, my brain doesn't work because I've literally had 4 hours sleep, and then that has been going on for X number of weeks. And I think that's been the most difficult, but I found that delegating, just letting my team get on with it, is the best way of doing it. Like I'll say to them, I need to be at home this afternoon, I need to have a nap. I'll be quite honest with them that I'm that tired, but I'm like, I'm there on Teams, message me if you need anything. And so I think by, allowing them to get on, delegating the right work to them and just letting them crack on with it has been an absolute game changer, really. I can't do it all.
Yeah, so I suppose that comes down to, again, culture within an organisation. And you've mentioned networking as well today. So I'm going to say it also comes down to sometimes culture within a networking event or group, wherever you go. And is it sometimes as well then, Vanessa, as all of us, as individuals, whether we are working for a business, representing another business, or we're a business owner, is it sometimes perhaps we all need to just be that little bit mindful and understand we are all human out there?
Definitely. And I always think you don't know what the person next to you, opposite you, is going through. Like, you know, there's all sorts of trials and tribulation. I think the older that you get, the more life hits you and things happen, you know, people become ill and things. And so I just think, just be kind and be mindful. Like, sometimes if you might be on the receiving end of somebody being a little bit snappy, I sit there and think, well, you know, what might have gone on in their life today to make that happen? You know, I think that then allows you to have a lot more compassion as a human being towards other people.
So I'm going to ask you one more question before you go. What would you like to foresee or see for the future for business as a whole in Stoke-on-Trent?
I think it'd be to be a bit more inclusive and to recognise that people aren't robots or these, like, you know, really high-flying individuals. Like, we're all humans, we all have struggles behind closed doors. And I think the more that business owners open up about the issues that they face or they've gone through, it might be in the career, it might be personal, then it makes us all a little bit more human and a lot more caring. And, you know, Stokies are really caring by nature. And so I think we just need to see a bit more of that.
And the collaboration side, again, supporting each other. I'm totally 100% with you on that. So if I'm going to ask you one more question, actually. I know that said that was the last one. But if somebody, again, is out there and they are looking for support on various things, does it matter on what size of a business it is or what, you know, how long a business has been going, what stage they're at? Does it really matter what stage a business owner is and where they could perhaps seek coaching?
No, you know, I've worked with people from start up to people that have been in business for over 10 years. And obviously what I would do with them is completely different, but there's struggles all along. And I just think if somebody can help you to get through those struggles a lot easier and, you know, not reinvent the wheel, then it makes a lot of difference in having that soundboard as well for somebody to speak to. And something that I found when I couldn't afford coaching in the early days was by going to networking meetings, that the support that I got out of there, you know, was absolutely amazing. And, you know, hearing other business owners had been through the same things as me, you're like, oh, okay, so it's not all falling apart and I'm not all doing it totally wrong. But, you know, that's probably a start point if you really can't afford like a one-to-one.
Vanessa, thank you so much for coming in here on Business Spotlight. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. That's Vanessa Fuller from Coaching by Vanessa here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonya Farrall.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.